Hello and welcome to Protect Ukraine Now YouTube channel. We have spent a lot of time on this channel going over different ways to improve the support for Ukraine from the United States government. Today, our guest is Jed Sunden, the founder of the American Ukraine PAC, and we are going to talk about campaign contributions to members of Congress who support Ukraine. Basically, putting your money where your mouth is. Hi, Jed. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Great. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Jed Sunden. I'm the founder and the director of the American Ukraine PAC. Right? A PAC is a political action committee, and we're focused on one thing, supporting members of Congress who support the American-Ukraine relationship.
Great. And I suspect that many Ukraine supporters listening to us were not involved in US politics until very recently. So for their benefit, can you please explain what a political action
Great.
committee is and how it functions?
Great. Happy to. So there's a basic rule in politics. When you're going to speak to a politician, you either want to bring and represent voters, or you want to bring money. And those are two different routes in terms of participation in the American political process. If you're bringing voters and representing voters, that's called advocacy. And we have a strong tradition that as a voter, you can go to your representative, speak to them, demand, right? I want you to vote on this. I want you to support this. The only limitation on that, as you know, we have a federal system. So, right, Alec, you're in Illinois, yeah? So you're limited that, your senator from Illinois, he's happy to see you. Your representative in the district you live, he's happy to see you. I live in New York. I can go speak to Jerry Nadler in New York 9 or Schumer, and they'd be happy to see me and they'll listen. But if I go to New Jersey and I want to speak to Cory Booker, he'll say, wait a minute, I don't represent you. He doesn't have any responsibility to me. He's responsible to the voters of New Jersey, right? So that's one route in terms of building political strength, advocacy, and it's very local. Another route is through PACs, political action committees, and where you're thanking representatives for their support, and you're bringing campaign finance and donations. Right now, obviously, once money's involved, there's a lot of rules around it. The most simple, you can't go to a representative and say, hey, here's a donation. I want you to vote this way. That's illegal, right? But you can say and choose representatives who support ideas, who support values that you represent, and say, I want to thank you for your support, and I'd like to give a donation for your reelection campaign. And that's what the PAC does. One key difference of where the PAC and advocacy differ is I'm a citizen, I live in New York, but you can donate to anybody across the country. So you can choose somebody in Oklahoma or California or Texas and donate there. On the specifics of Ukraine, it's important for the Ukraine community to do both. You want to have a strong advocacy arm, and the Ukraine community does. The American Coalition works that way. Razum works that way. UKK, the Ukraine Congress Committee, they all work on advocacy. They're representing voters. The PAC does the other thing, and we're the only one within the Ukraine community who's trying to build out that arm. I like to say, same direction, different roads.
That makes sense. So, in general, how common is for PACs to make a difference in an election?
So I think the key word is in an election. Now, obviously, politicians need to raise money. And, depending on the race, there will be different amount of money. Obviously, on a presidential election, they're raising $1 billion. So, one PAC probably doesn't pay that much, but, combined. A Senate race might be $20 million. A House race might be $1 million to $3 million, right? It depends on the race and that amount. And there are all sizes of PACs. There's huge PACs, which give millions of dollars. There are smaller ones, which give thousands. One thing to be clear, just within campaign finance, you'll hear PACs used. There are 3 different types. There's super PACs, which do not work directly with the campaign. They can give unlimited amounts, right? As a citizen, you can give, when you hear of Elon Musk giving $50 million, that's to a super PAC. Mm-hmm. There's, specific limitations on that. He can't coordinate with the campaign. So he can run ads, support electric cars, support crypto, but he can't coordinate with the campaign. And he can choose, support crypto, vote for this candidate. If you give directly what we do, a traditional PAC, you give the money to the campaign, and there are limitations, how much the PAC can give, how much each citizen can give. So it's limited $3,300, but you can pool together from this and this and this person and give. Now, at the end, politicians are dependent on raising money. So whether it comes from individuals or through PACs, they're dependent on it. Now, when you're dealing with Washington and with politicians, whether it's advocacy or whether it's PAC work, right? You don't have specific, I did this, I got that. We gave money, we got this vote. We went to Washington, they voted this way. Life doesn't work like that, right? The only thing you can do is put in the effort, and you measure your success in terms of access, how often you met with the office, who you met with in the office. Did you meet with the candidate or a staff? And attention, right? We as a PAC and the Ukraine Committee is obviously laser focused on Ukraine issues, right? Right now, the Stand with Ukraine Act. Before that, the supplemental. The congressman, he focused on hundreds of issues: immigration, taxation, environment, Israel, et cetera, et cetera. So, the key thing that you're trying to do is say, wait a minute, out of all these issues, this one's important, right? And attention so that they might lead or sponsor or vote for this bill. So, all the work, if you're able to get some more attention, get some more access, you're able to successfully work within the political process.
And I know you're a long time Ukraine supporter, and first, thank you for that. And also, there are so many ways to help Ukraine. What specifically motivated you to choose the path of creating a political action committee?
So, just to go back, I'm, like you and like most of the listeners, a Ukraine patriot. I'm an American. I'm a 4th, 5th generation American, so I have no ties to Ukraine, but I ended up moving there after college, built a company, and lived there for 20 years. And was deeply involved in many, many Ukraine reform, to help build Ukraine, and I built a media company there, which I'm very proud of. After I moved back to the States, I was involved in a lot of Ukraine issues. Like everybody, watching the supplemental and understanding what was happening in Ukraine while the supplemental was delayed. And there were many reasons it got delayed. That's beyond this conversation. It made me believe that that's the most effective, participation in the U.S. political process on behalf of Ukraine is the most effective thing we Ukrainian patriots can do. right? I spent 2 years sending drones, sending medicine, helping people with U4Us. And I'm happy and I'm proud I did it. But no matter how many drones I can send, it's not going to win the war. Passing that supplemental for $61 billion, working to have the Stand with Ukraine Act passed, those are steps which can help Ukraine towards victory, much more than any individual step that I can do or any combined stuff that the Ukraine community can do. And I believe it's where us, Ukraine patriots, should be focusing our attention as American citizens. We have a unique opportunity, right? In the sense, Ukrainians don't, the Ukrainian embassy, right? The Ukraine government, right? They work with the American government. We are much more powerful in our ability to influence U.S. policy and the U.S. government towards Ukraine than the Ukraine government is. And we need to use that.
And it's also, I guess, putting your money where your mouth is. So you believe in something, you support it financially, and I guess this concerns our listeners as well. They can go to your website and donate to specific politicians. You have an awesome champions list of Congresspeople, senators that support Ukraine. Can you please explain how this
Sure.
process, I guess, works behind the scenes
So,
when someone
yeah,
donates to a candidate in your?
I'll get to I'll explain the donation, but we're focused on two things. One, education and information. So we've compiled very, complete information for every member of Congress for every vote on Ukraine. So you can go and look up wherever you are in Illinois or New York and say, this is my member of Congress. How did he vote on the supplemental? How did he vote on this bill, that bill, that bill? And then, we give them a report card. Strong supporter, negative. And, it comes down, and this is my belief. Hey, any member of Congress who supported the supplemental, that was such a fundamental bill. If they voted in favor of it, they're a supporter of Ukraine. If they voted against it, they're negative. It's a very clear line. Nothing else matters than their vote on the supplemental, realistically. And, we aim for an objective. We look at their voting record, and that's it, right? And in Congress, the only thing that matters is votes. We go beyond that to highlight specific members who we call Ukraine champions. They have a great voting record on Ukraine, but they also are leaders within Congress, right? A law just doesn't appear. It takes a leader who will sponsor it, who will draft it and sponsor it and push it through so that it gets to the floor of Congress. Right now we have the Stand with Ukraine Act that was led and, in Congress, right, by Graham on the Senate side, right? Fitzpatrick on the House side. Those are the champions who are pushing it, right? Concerning the Ukraine, the condemnation, the bill for the condemnation, which highlighted the tragedy of the kidnapped Ukrainian children. That was Rep. Wild, who brought it up, who led it, who made sure that it, through each step, got passed. And we need to highlight them, these leaders, and highlight these Ukrainian champions. So some is just information. We also put out a lot of content on a daily day to follow the nuances of the American-Ukraine relationship and policy, each bill, each installment of aid that's given. Right? Now, concerning donations, as I say, it's a very highly regulated process in the US, as well it should be, right? And you can choose different ways to give. You can give to the PAC, which then means the PAC can make choices of who we want to give to. And if you do that, we thank you, and we will, aim to highlight those specific members that we feel, right, have earned the support, and also perhaps, to highlight ones who are in close races who need the extra money. Perfect. But additionally, you can give money and it's called earmarking. You highlight specifically who you want to give it to. And again, you could give it to candidate blue, you can give it to candidate yellow. To an extent, it doesn't make a difference to us. But it's vitally important for a Ukraine supporter to give it through the Ukraine PAC. You decide who receives it. You decide the amount. By law, we can't swift it. If you say you want to give it to Trump, we say great. If you say you want to give it to candidate Harris, we say great. But if you give it through the PAC, it's earmarked. The candidate will see that it comes from you. But if I give and it just says Jed Sunden, the candidate doesn't know whether the money is because I support his immigration policy or his taxation policy or his environmental policy. But if you give it through the PAC, it will say Jed Sunden, right, bundled through the American Ukraine PAC. And that candidate will know precisely the reason why. That we're giving it because, not because of environment, but because of their stances and their votes on Ukraine. Equally important, even if you're best friends with the candidate, even if it's your brother who's running and he knows that you're giving because of Ukraine, all donations are public record. We file quarterly reports with the FEC, Federal Election Committee. Those gets published, and they're like scorecards. Everybody in DC looks at them. So it's vitally important, not just for your relationship with the candidate you gave to, and again, maybe it's your brother and he knows, but every other member of Congress will look and see the voice and the power of the Ukrainian community. And then it opens doors. As I go, we want attention and access. So if you give to candidate A, great. And you may have a great relationship with candidate A. But you know what? The senator from South Dakota, I'm not from South Dakota. You're not from South Dakota. Right? But if the senator from South Dakota sees that the Ukrainian community has given here and given there and given there, he then is more interested in hearing and listening to the Ukrainian community. And let me just remind, political power in America is dispersed, right? The speaker, right? President Biden is from Delaware. The Speaker of the House is from Louisiana, right? The minority leader is from New York City, right? And it goes on and on, right? The vice president is from California. It's spread across the country. So when I speak about the senator of South Dakota, you might go, oh, the senator of South Dakota, Honorable Senator Roush, he's the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He's vitally important for the American-Ukraine relationship, right? So
if politicians assume certain offices like chairman of armed services or foreign affairs committees, then they obviously represent the entire nation, not only people in their district.
Yes, they do, right? So, it's important. We vote locally, right? You vote, but you should be giving nationally. And we try and do a lot to highlight who are the key members. And again, right, there's 535 of them. There's a lot, right? It's not surprising if you're not informed about who the rep from Oklahoma is. That's very detailed work, but we're focused on that to make it easy to give. So if you go to our site, you can go to Ukraine Champions and you see. And again, if you want to give to the Democrats, I say great. You want to give to the Republicans, I say great. As long as you give through the PAC, so every member of Congress will see the strength of the Ukrainian community.
Yeah, and that's very important to underscore that your PAC is bipartisan. It doesn't matter if you, as a donor, you support a Republican or a Democrat candidate. As long as they support Ukraine, they own your list.
Exactly, and we must remember, right? The American people, the majority, right, 65% support Ukraine. A majority of members of Congress in both parties, a majority of Dems, a majority of Republicans support Ukraine. So there, we must be proactive, reaching out and thanking those members.
Yes, and I suppose giving money to candidates that support Ukraine is not only to help them with their re-election or other campaigns, but it's also a very strong message. I support Ukraine, but I also support Ukraine to a great extent, sufficient for me to spend money on this issue. Not that I kind of sort of support, I'm really behind Ukraine. That sends a very strong message.
It is. It is a strong message. And again, this is how political power is built in America. As I say, it's two sides. You want advocacy, you want PAC, and we need to build the muscle on both sides.
And is this okay to ask you how much money you raised through your PAC? Politicians.
So, first off, and again, as I say, it's highly regulated and a little technical. So we use two ways to collect money. Some, if we take checks, those goes directly into the PAC's bank accounts. Some of it is money given to the PAC. Some of it is money that's earmarked. So again, if the donors earmark, then which candidates are chosen are not chosen by the PAC, but by the donors. So if X amount of donors want to give to Dems, that's how much is given to Dems. X amount want to give, right, to Republicans, that's how much is given to the Republican. It's a donor-led organization in that sense. One other technical note, we collect some money through the PAC. When we collect money by credit cards, and obviously it's a lot easier to give through credit cards, it goes through a payment processor and directly to the accounts, right? So it doesn't go through the PAC's bank accounts. It's called Democracy Engine. It's a payment processor for PACs and political campaigns. So our federal reporting records under reports how much we're giving to different campaigns and candidates, right? We're in the six figures, and it's an acceptable amount, but this is one of those cases where truly bigger is better. The more that we get, the more we can show different campaigns, and the more attention and access we can gain with different candidates.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. Can I ask you share a little more about your scoring system? You're obviously rating members. You mentioned that you do this based on their voting records. Is there any other consideration that goes into the rating system?
No, it's only votes. And again, using other subjective measures, comments, well, there's a lot of comments, and then you have to weigh what they mean. A vote is a very binary measure. They either voted for or not. So we looked at around 20 different bills connected to Ukraine and then gave different weights to different ones. As I mentioned, the supplemental in April was clearly the most important bill for Ukraine. Now, there were other spending bills in the past, right? So the supplemental was the most important. That got the highest points for, on vote. Spending bills in the past were important. They got a lower amount. There's also resolutions, which, have value, but they are non-binding. So you have the resolution, as I mentioned, concerning the Ukrainian children. That's important, but it's a less important bill than the supplemental. Then there were also various other ones which we gave lesser points to. It's a bit technical because you have to make some assumptions on the different values of the bills. It's all listed on the site, so you can look up each particular bill. But I do, highlight to, simplify. We're very clear. If you voted in favor of the supplemental, you're a supporter. If you voted against it, you're in the negative camp. That's where we stand. Now, as the next bills will come up, we will update the methodology. So right now, we know we have this, the most important policy priority for Ukraine is the Stand with Ukraine Act,
Mhm.
right? And this is bipartisan. It's been introduced in the Senate. It's been introduced uh, in the House. And this bill is vital because it focuses on a couple key areas. One, it highlights and designates certain amounts of funding for the Ukrainian military for the next several years, right? And, ensuring that Ukraine receives the tools that it needs to win on the military battlefield, that's top priority. Additionally, it solidifies the American-Ukraine relationship. It's not the end game, but it's a stepping stone, what's called MNNA, Major Non-NATO Ally. The top goal for the American-Ukraine relationship is NATO status, and we want to keep our eye on that. That's a complicated process, and it involves all 32 members of NATO agreeing. And we saw, in the case in Sweden and Finland, it took 2 years, year and a half, for them to pass through the test, to be accepted. And one country can delay it for an extended time. The major non-NATO status, the US can grant, and it's granted to other key American allies who don't qualify for NATO for other reasons. Israel, Japan, South Korea. It allows, one, and it's, as I say, a stepping stone. So, in terms of military transfer, bidding on military, being able to store US military equipment inside the country, which then facilitates transport, exchange of information, vitally important. So there's a lot of key factors which will deepen the American-Ukraine relationship the moment that this bill is passed and Ukraine attains the status of a major non-NATO ally. And our goal as the PAC and on advocacy is to work with members of Congress right now for co-sponsorship. There's 30 co-sponsors in the House from both parties, and bringing it to vote and eventual passage. But as I say, it's a stepping stone. MMNA, we want it. It's important. The final goal is NATO status.
Yeah, that's definitely a great bill. I looked it over too, and the most important thing at the moment in that bill is future collaboration between American military-industrial complex. Ukraine needs to build its own military, and intelligence sharing and other collaboration is very critical. So that's probably the most important thing Ukraine can get through this legislation. It also calls for excess defense articles to be heavily emphasized when it comes to shipping immediate aid. And we all know that we have storages full of equipment. We have retired. We don't need this any longer, and we can give it to Ukraine without any compromises to our own security. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. This is a very important legislation.
One other thing to remember, and this is very important for us as Americans, and to highlight, the American-Ukraine relationship is a two-way street. And we're thankful for what America is giving to Ukraine in military aid. We are also thankful for what Ukraine can give to America. We know right now, Ukraine, in terms of drone technology, is at the forefront. It's cutting edge what they're doing. And that knowledge, one on developing drones, but also the knowledge concerning what America's enemies are using and building, right? On Russian drones, on Iranian drones, on North Korean missiles. Ukraine has a lot of information and a lot of intelligence on it. And it's important for America's safety that that intelligence is brought back, that it's given to the US military. And the Stand with Ukraine Act allows and deepens the two-way relationship. And it makes Ukraine safer and it makes America safer.
Absolutely. So the elections are going to be over in just a few short weeks. In your opinion, aside from helping a specific candidate win in this election, is there a lasting effect to campaign contributions, and would you encourage donations after the election is over?
Yes, right? Building the Ukrainian community's muscle in DC. It's a long-term and permanent project. It's not focused on November 5th. There's things we've been doing in the run-up to the elections, but the day after the election, we need to continue work, both on advocacy and on PAC work, on reaching out and maintaining continual, as I say, attention and access. There will be a new administration on November 5th. I don't know which one. I don't have an opinion on which one. There will be new members of Congress. There will be returning members of Congress, right? We don't know which party will control the House and which party will control the Senate, who will be majority and minority leader. Irrespective of who wins, we, the Ukrainian community, need to build and deepen relations with those leaders in the US government.
Definitely. And again, there are different levels of I care for something. There's I care as in I don't mind if Ukraine wins versus I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is and actually support what I strongly believe in.
Exactly. And it is a very strong message to members when people donate money and they donate it through the American Ukraine PAC, and those members, and as I say, every other member of Congress and person in DC will see that people are donating because of Ukraine, that matters.
And I'm definitely going to share the link to your PAC in the description to this video once it's up on our YouTube. So our viewers can take a look and hopefully donate to members of Congress on your champions list or to the PAC in general.
Thank you very much.
Jed,
And also just include concerning the newsletter, we put out a lot of content which goes into detail about the American-Ukraine relationship, about administration policies and Congressional. It's, hopefully allows everybody to be a little better informed about the details of the American-Ukraine relationship. And so we can become better advocates to highlight some of those details.
Great. And obviously, we're recording this video so that more people can join the action and actually support Ukraine. What final thoughts do you want to leave our viewers and listeners with?
Okay, the final thought, we as Americans, we have a role we can play, and it's a unique role, right? To build and support the American-Ukraine relationship. And we should be focused on building our strength in DC. That's something only we as Americans can do to help and bring Ukrainian victory closer.
Great. Jed, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your support for Ukraine. I'm confident that this conversation was very important for all of our viewers and listeners, and I look forward to them joining those who still don't join the action and help Ukraine with money.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jed. Talk to you later.
Bye.